on the line who's connecting with us live. Everyone who can hear my voice this morning, we thank you. Good morning to you. We welcome you to the Mastermind call with the Dreammakers Network. Appreciate you so much for waking up with us this morning here on this Thanksgiving weekend and it's holiday season. We have made it to the holiday season. I know some folks get started fresh after. If you're like my daughter, you get started fresh after, or right around, even before Halloween, who dives into the the holiday season. Um, but for me, this month of November really kicks it off, and so it's just truly a blessing to have made it to this point of the year, and to still have an opportunity to take a second and give thanks. And so we thankful for all of you who joined us this morning for the first time. If you're here, thank you so much. We welcome you. We appreciate you and your time, your willingness to connect with us here online with the Mastermind called the Dreammakers Network. And for all of our folks who've been participating with us on this call now for about a little over 11 years. It's truly a blessing to have friends and family and folks who are in the mindset of personal development and who continue to focus their life on growth from a personal development perspective. And we've tried our best, and we're going to continue to try to interrupt all the things that are going on in your life, all of the things that are you've identified as important, things that have really played a role in helping you to sustain your lifestyle. But we want to take a second to help you and for all of us to come together in the spirit of personal development as to how do we grow and get better in this life relative to the purposes that you are here to do, the things that are important for your voice to communicate, the things that are important for you and your time to be spent on. And I think it's just been unbelievable when you think about the amount of time, the relationships that have been created, all the things that have come from having a like-minded network, a network of folks who, regardless of where you are, in the time zones and across the country and across the world, that when you wake up every morning, there is a unique spirit of personal development, a sense of calling, a unique purpose that you are moving in a particular direction. And it's a direction that you believe not only will be of added value to you, your family, and your network, but it could add value to anyone who accesses the things that you're working on. And just to be able to have that kind of mindset, because sometimes we take it for granted because we live in our own bubbles. When you hang around a certain group of people, and most of the people you hang around kind of think the way you think, have a certain level of a certain spirit about them. You can tell that you watch their lives, the communication, how they speak to you and how you speak to them. It sounds similar, if you will, because you spend time with people who invest in you and you invest in them. We create our own bubbles just to sustain ourselves, if you will, just to make sure that we can get through this life in the right way. Because the truth is, most people do not have networks of folks who are intentionally investing in their lives, and vice versa. Most people don't. And when you are in that kind of world where you do, we take it for granted. And so, more than anything else, when I think about this time of Thanksgiving, I want to just quickly and passionately say, thank you. And I'm thankful for my Dreammakers Network family, because even when I'm down and having, even if we are 3 weeks away from the call, and I'm in a bad mood and I'm not at vibrating at my highest levels, I can either get a text message from somebody or sometimes I force my brain into thinking about what the topic of the next call will be, and it shifts the whole energy of what was going on and what had me frustrated. So, and to be able to have those, like you can call it tricks, if you will, but I see it as just having a valuable resource in your life when you can quickly go to these things and reach out to these folks, knowing that a specific level of communication with them will change your mindset, enhance your vibration, and get you back, get you back on track. And I'll tell you something else. In many ways, and that's I've been in situations where I've kind of someone's reached out to me and I wasn't in my best situation, and then they laid on me something that made whatever I was going through seems like child's play, you know. And at that moment, I'm like, get back in gear, brother. This is what you're talking about right now. This is small potatoes compared to what people are truly going through and experiencing. And so I'm highly thankful for this network. Um, and more importantly, I think that when we have these opportunities to really focus on the value of being in a like-minded network, and to be in a situation where personal development is the main objective. And what does that mean to you and everybody? When you begin to unpack what that means to you, it brightens your spirit, clears your mind of the clutter, and allows you to move forward. And so I'm just truly more than excited about today and the thankfulness of today. But I'm equally, if not more, excited about what's to come. And so thank you to everyone who joined us this morning, who's on the call. And we look forward to hearing from you and taking time to kind of connect to where you are and what's going on. And we look forward to diving into all the things that truly matter to you and the objective of the call today. And so thank you again. Well, every year we run into this time of the year where we connect during the Thanksgiving season, and before we even dive into any particular topic, I think it's just important for us to pull back a second. And I know we've had a great time with friends or family during Thanksgiving and sharing, but I truly would love to hear from you guys just about as you look back at 2023. It's amazing how we just skipped along through this through this year. How we've gotten to pretty much December of this year is amazing. Just again, it seems like we just flew through it. Um, but I do think it's important to be a bit reflective, if you will, to think back over the year, the think about how you entered the year from an objective perspective, what your intentions were for this year, and to be able to just for a second, just for a second, think about that and begin to unpack it. I know the year's not over, but I think it is a perfect time for a bit of reflection. One, to be thankful and just kind of communicate and verbalize the fact that you're thankful that you gotten to this point, right? Um, but I would say, even more importantly, to be able to communicate what's happened this year in your life, good, bad, and the ugly. Every day when my daughter gets home from school, I ask her, "How was your day?" and break it down in the context, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and be honest. And I want to hear what's going on. And the same here. Want to be able to uh, have you communicate the good, the bad, and the ugly of this 2023 year. And what it means to you and what it means to your goals. You know, if you've made great strides this year, if it's been a situation where you know, some starts and puts, if you will, you started, you stopped, you started, you stopped. Or it could be the case that, you know what, it stayed in my mind and I never got going. And here's why, and so I think it's valuable for us to be able to take that time to communicate where we are, um, in an environment, because we can't share this kind of stuff with everybody, even though folks will hear this call. But I think it's all, for me, it's usually just valuable knowing in the time where we're communicating, that the folks who I'm communicating with, and even the folks who are watching and spend time watching throughout the whole call, that you're in a space of folks who are either one or two things: either have an expectation around their own life because where they are, where they're trying to go, and they're just looking and listening for that bit of information, that unique story, that piece that could be a game changer, that missing link, the key, if you will, to where they're trying to go, but they haven't found it yet. So always, thinking about that and recognizing that someone could be right there. So our stories are valuable. Stories are important because we went through it, we lived through it, and we've had the time to assess, what's happening, and even in many cases reap the benefits. But the fact that there are some folks who are like, what you're getting ready to say could very well change the game, and maybe not right now, but maybe in the future. I remembered hearing that person talk about their story, and I don't even remember his name or her name, but I remember the story. So let's take a second. I'd love to open up the call to anyone who'd like to kind of take a second and talk about a reflection of 2023, what's worked, what hasn't worked, and just give an opportunity to share your thankfulness for making it up to this point. So we'll take a second and open up the call now. Anybody who'd like to share, we'll open the call now. And even for those of us who are watching online, go ahead, dive in.
So this year has been more so attempting to figure out the newness of what to do, and getting my mom in order and kind of when I'm doing myself. I started the company also the year before. So it's like the realness of all of these things happening. 2023 was a mess. January came pretty quickly. Broke my leg.
True.
Virtually figured out for virtual work with me. And then I had to decide at some point, I just needed to make it as a live. And so this being super duper intentional about, enjoying the things from the see. And so that's what I thought to like mostly once I wanted again. Was definitely important. And just doing the things that I supposed to do. Being committed to myself. Spending some time I did two retreats this year, and just spending time with me and really figuring out what my needs are for the next 20, 30 years, both professionally and personally. So it was a lot of healing and a lot of time spent reflecting, but also just living because of the different things that I've put in place over the last 2 years, and enjoying those fruits of the labor in those spaces. So this year I'm getting ready for that next places at. I realized because of me breaking my legs and some renovation at my house, I only spent about 4 months actually in the house this year. So I'm really looking forward to January and being and just kind of getting some house projects done and getting ready for 2024. I buried three of my friends this past year. And it was also a huge wake up call because everybody was almost 52. But knowing this, it's just like the seriousness of living and the seriousness of being prepared for whatever happens. But living and being, again, intentional about living as well and not just being responsive and reactive to everything else going on.
Mm. Ty, did you sell your Baltimore property?
Yeah, I did. So in May 2022.
2022. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Still learning.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I love it. It's just interesting and just listening to you just talking about how 2023 has been about healing and living, and it's just when you think about that, because yeah, a lot of times, we could look back at past years where things happened in, you know, in some cases, even the 19s, if you will. And then we just got going, you know, and never healed from something. And we find ourselves 20, 25 years later recognizing that a lot of life has happened and we never healed from that life changing moment, and to be able to, uh, kind of, prioritize healing, if you will. Um, I think that in of itself is worth telling to the world. And what does that even look like? And sounds like to me though, and you kind of packed it in there pretty good, that part of the healing really is living, and to recognize that I was talking to one of my boys who I grew up with the other day, and was like, the thing is, as long as we keep living, folks are gonna die, you know, and at some point in my brain, and it had to digest on me that way, because if you don't, then and then you become almost, especially when I moved away from home. When I moved away from Florida for a long time, but even in the back of my mind, would always just have that little, looking around on the side of your shoulder, not able to feel 100% comfortable in my own skin, because like I'm kind of far away from all my family, and that little edge of concern, if you will. But to be in a purpose where you just really, if you just prioritize and living, you know, and what does that mean? And knowing that folks are passing, or even sometimes we see the situations. Sometimes I hate to even jump on social media sometimes, because it's like you get to scrolling, and next thing you know, you see something that's hit close to home, and it's like, oh my Lord. So, but I like the fact that you highlighted healing through living, if you will, and that in and of itself, I think, is a testimony in and of itself, that what does that even look like. So I appreciate you sharing that. I know this, for you, this has been a wild run, but you're the best person to run it. So, and I like the fact that, it's one of the good things is when I am scrolling and I see your face and I see stuff you have going on, I'm like, all right, cool. Ty is all good, and she is brightening up the whole scene. So I truly appreciate you highlighting that. I've documented this down today, healing through living.
Yeah. And boundaries.
Mm, I love it. I love it. Anybody else? Let's open up the call. Open up the call. Anybody else who wants to take a second and kind of highlight, take a look back at 2023, um, willing to share and highlight what you're thankful for. As we've gotten to this point of Thanksgiving, we'll open up the call now. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I definitely would like to take a quick second and just really talk about 2023 and kind of in a quick nutshell for me, as we walked into this new year and what the goals were and how where we are today on a more personal level. You know, I think even as we even up to real time, we made our move to Florida in August of 2022, and for me, it's really been about working through uh, the plan. 2022, actually at the end of 2021, we came back from Christmas vacation here in Florida, got home back in Maryland, and a decision was made. And so when a decision is made, a decision is nothing until you act on it. And a decision was made to make the move to Florida, and we can unpack all the reasons why. But when the decision is made and you put a plan out and you get to acting on the plan, then it's there's no stopping that. So we make the move, and since that time, really in a nutshell, is for me personally, it's been about executing the plan. And when you think about what is the plan and the why behind the plan, and it's when for me it was kind of coming back to a place that doesn't really look or feel in many ways as the same place that I grew up in, but it is the same place, um, but at the same time trying to sustain relationships, um, in Maryland. But even not only that, when I take a look back, I can kind of go back to the 19s. Since the 19s, since 1999, my life has been, about going from one place to the next. Going here and then going there and then going there, then going here, and building relationships in each of these areas. And it's been that kind of a life over the past, 25 plus years. And so even as we look at up to today, in every example, even in those bad days, those days so you're just like, what in the world is, what did I do this for? Why did I do this? All these various things. In any of those examples, even going back to the 19s and making the move, and from all the different places, it's about after a decision is made, you make the decision, and then you work the plan, and you feel great about the plan. Now, if you don't feel good about the plan, then that's another conversation. If you don't feel good about the plan, then you really need to, go back to your decision. What was the why behind the decision? What was the motivating force behind the decision? But for me, if the plan is beautiful, if the plan is really exciting, if the plan is worth waking up for and getting going, and investing time, energies, everything into it, then it's worth the ongoing daily execution. And that is really what this has been about. I would say for me and my family is to, one, look for the lessons in every day, look for those growth opportunities in every day, look for the healing opportunities every day, and how to get better. I was actually on the plane last night heading back, and as you got, as a graduate of Tuskegee, it's like you're always a student, right? And so I was listening to one of Booker T. Washington's books. A lot of people know about Up From Slavery, but he has a host of different books. And one of the ones I was listening to last night was it has a book called Character Building, and essentially it's basically um, him giving lectures to the students, and they just took those lectures and made it books, essays and books out of it. But in that book, he really highlighted the importance of decisions, plans, and execution, and doing it to the place that it's bigger than you, and the highlighting the value of building something that could be of benefit. It's when I think about him, he was so focused on having Black people rebuild the South. That was his definite chief aim. You know, Black folks rebuilding the South. The South was destroyed because of the Civil War, and people even when you hear and listen to the Atlanta Compromise in his speech. If you listen to it on the surface, like, oh, well, you can't. No, that's not how we're going to do this. But when you listen to it from the perspective of this is a man who's made his definite chief aim, Black people rebuilding the South, it changes the context of the speech. And so, I try to, we go back to these principles of who do you listen to. I try to, when you look at the different things that I'm working on, regardless of what it is, you find people who really gone above and beyond in their time and in their situations, and how did they navigate that. And so and that kind of stuff is at least for me personally, is extremely helpful when things really get tough. When when the money dries up, when the relationship is struggling, when it seems like whatever you're trying to communicate is going on deaf ear, when you're frustrated and tired, when all of those things, and then sometimes all that stuff happens at the same time, right? And so it's you for me, I look to those examples for guidance and strategy, and to be rebuilt, if you will. And so, you think about this past year. I mean, we went into the year, and I would speak more so on a personal level, experience some extreme highs and relative to personal goals um, early, and then trying to manage and maintain those goals. It's like you start experiencing some crazy, whirlwind lows. But what I found though is that, and this is kind of going back to your point, Tasana, is when you are managing and juggling more than one thing at the same time, and you're starting your own business, you're a contractor here, you're a W-2 here, you're trying to manage expectations of other people's priorities and things like that. There was definitely a moment, I would say roughly around this summer, where I actually experienced extreme highs and extreme lows all in the same day, and same week, same day. Like, and so before you could get too caught up in one emotion, you're now knee deep in another one. And I would say that what it did for me is to just embrace the new normal. If this is part of the plan, if what's going on and what's happening and the chaos and the craziness, is a part of the plan, then what it really is saying is that that chaos and craziness is really chaos and craziness in the mindset of the old you. The old you would look at this as chaos and craziness. But the person that you're creating, that you're building in this executing of the plan process, this is just part of the life. And you have to make a decision at that moment to say, are you cool with that? How do you feel knowing that you could have extreme wins and extreme losses in the same day? And it could be a daily thing. How do you feel about that? And I asked myself that question. And I said, if it's still lined up with this beautiful plan that laid out, I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. I'm here for that. Let's do it. Especially if there's things that we can look back and say, well, maybe it may not have to be as drastic if we do this and we change that. And so I look at it like this, as long as I still have energy and health and the mindset to execute the plan, then I'm here for it. But if something pulls back and I'm like, you know what, I don't have the juice, so then that's when you say, oh, all right, let me restructure this thing a bit. But I tell you that, I mean, I have clients who are my parents' age who still got the juice, So I'm like, okay, what are we talking about right now? Like, this brother still got the juice. He's still rocking, So it's a reality. It's a real thing to be, what people will say, hey, you should be in your relaxed time of your life. Well, that's all relative to if you're still working your plan. And if you're working your plan and you're 80, 81, okay, you're still rocking. The folks who I talk to who are that age, they're all talking about 100 as the goal. And then they see people who, lived and, lives past 100. They're like, yeah, that sounds about right. So, as long as you can manage health through the process, I'm like, hey, let's go. Let's go. So, it's, I think that's just where my head is now. If I don't know if my wife is on here, but if she was on here, she probably would say, okay, here's what's really the flow of the day-to-day kind of thing. And it's, and that's the real thing, it's the day-to-day of life is the kind of the testing ground. It's the reality. But all I can see is this exciting goal that is being pursued in the day-to-day wins. I look at the day-to-day experiences, something that we can measure. Did we win? Did we lose? Was it rough? Was it tough? All of that. These are the things that kind of jump out and shine in my mind as we are steady moving forward, because I look at it from the standpoint of, this is a personal development objective. And either you mean it or you don't. Either you're really prioritizing personal development as part of your life, or you're not. And that's really the core. It's especially, and I remember growing up, and when first 20 years of your life, and 70% of your time of your life was spent in church and hearing the stories of the Bible and being the talk of faith all of the time. And then you get above that 20-year age and you start experiencing life yourself, and then you see people who preach that word so much, go through stuff, and I'm like, hey, either this faith thing is real or it's not. So it's either you are going to live by faith or you're not going to live by faith. It's either one or the other. It's either one or the other, so it's no, oh, well, yes. Yeah. We talk faith strong on Sunday. Yeah, of course. But by Tuesday and Wednesday, you're sitting around like, oh, what is me and what's going on? No. And so I think that doggedness, if you will, for me, when it comes down to talking about this purpose of personal development and setting goals and being dead serious about it and pursuing the things that matter to you, regardless, it comes from, the kind of the rearing, the foundation of when living by faith has been preached down to you for all your life. Whatever you apply to your life has to be it has to be the objective. And there just can't be a lot of room if you're serious about what it is you've decided is your goal. There can't be a lot of room for and ahs, and I'm not sure. Wait a second. Like once you make the decision and a plan has been designed that you and whoever's involved in that plan are excited about, then that has to be the focus. That has to be the goal. That has to be the primary, definite chief aim, as Napoleon Hill says. And I think when we get to a point when the plan is not, or maybe if you don't even have a plan, if you don't even have a plan and you don't have a definite objective that you're focused on, then yeah, and from my perspective, you've quickly welcomed all of the circumstances that are gonna come anyway to rock you, to completely take you off the game, to completely bump you around and put you in a situation where you're sitting there like, why is all this happening to me? Well, what's the plan? What is it that you're working on? Where are you going? And why? Like, give it to me. Give me the drama. Like, what's the deal? Like, what has you fired up about this thing? Like, and if there's no fire, if there's no, this is why I'm pushing. This is why this matters. This is why, if there's none of that, I mean, I get it at that point. And we just have to know we can have this kind of conversation on this call because we're here to talk about personal development. But I can tell you, I'm kind of highlighting this in this way because the majority of folks don't have a plan. And if they do have a plan, they may not be that fired up about it. They, somebody else told them it might be the best thing they should do. We the first 20 years of our life, I get it. We're essentially executing the plan of our parents or the folks who raised us. So I get that. And so you hope that your parents gave you a plan, a good plan to execute and work, right? But we know that's not always the case for folks. So, once you've gotten past those foundation years, then you're looking at yourself and say, okay, here's what my folks gave me. Here's what I'm seeing. Here's what I've heard and experienced. Here's what was just recently introduced to me, which I'm like, yikes, why didn't I know about that kind of thing? Like, okay, I get it. Now, I was having this conversation with a client earlier this week where, you're kind of these 20-year stages, your first 20 years of foundation years, 20 to 40, your professional years where you're learning and you're coming up with your own objective and process as to how we go forward. 40 to 60 is executing what you've now learned, So it took me 20 years to learn and come up with this understanding that I have. So now I'm going to execute this objective from 40 to 60. And then from 60 to 80, this is when folks are either benefiting from what they've executed, because you want to definitely, that's the goal, to have benefited. Maybe your process was right, so you're now benefiting from what you've executed. You're living that part out. And for folks who are blessed to live past 80, I mean, I was talking to my uncle last night or yesterday, and I said, once you hit 70, man, every day after that is just pure gravy years, just pure. I mean, you should be celebrating every day because that is past what was promised to you. And but we're in this process of executing and coming up with what is our objective, what are our foundations, what are we launching, what are we pushing, what are we, especially for those with kids, whereas we're now repeating the cycle that our parents gave to us. They gave us that first 20-year foundation land. I'm now doing that for my child. And a lot of times it's always interesting when I speak to other, Gen Xers and say, well, is there any difference between what your parents taught you and gave you as a foundation than what you're pumping into your kids? Is it identical? I can tell you right now that what my parents gave me is different from what their parents gave them. Now, it's not, I would say it's probably, is maybe, a 25 to 30% different. The core of the foundation is there, but there was still that, they had their little generational, mixture in there. And the same thing for me, I would say 70% of what my mom taught me, I'm sharing with my daughter. But there's a rough 30 in there of my own things that I've learned that I said, "Ooh, if I would have had that, if I would have knew that, doing those when I was 10, maybe I would have pursued that earlier. Maybe I would have changed my thought process, So those things that our parents may not have experienced, may not have known anything about. That was brand new, fresh information. But it could be added value. That part is being added to the foundational years. And hopefully when she gets to become a parent, she'll say, yeah, daddy didn't know this though. He was good on that, but he didn't know about this. And she shares that with her kids, So we're in these stages. And I just think that, I think, and most of you who've been around this network for a while know this about me is, I'm in-game focus, and that's the in-game helps me to not get frustrated about today. If I can't see the in-game, then today can be this whole conversation would be different. This whole conversation will be a different day, will be a different deal altogether. I was talking to one of my boys a couple weeks ago, and this is kind of morphing, if you will, into what I want to talk to you guys about today. I'm like, at this stage of my life, I can only be focused on what it is I believe I was here to do from a purpose perspective. I can only be focused on that. And this is more in line with career. It's like, if you see me, if I told one of my guys, I was like, listen, if in the next 2-3 years, and you don't really hear from me, I hadn't really been text messaging or I hadn't called, and you don't really see my social media posts and all of that. And you say, man, let me just go see what's going on with Deese, man, and just run up on me. And you come to my house, and I'm now like a manager at State Farm Insurance or something like that. I gave up. I gave up. I gave up on the goal. I gave up on the plan. I gave up on all of the objectives. And I said, I'm just going to, do the things I already know how to do. You're right. And just, go work for somebody and manage their office and, find the day-to-day things I can do to put food on the table and maybe make somebody smile. If that's it, because I gave up on the bigger objective. And I could still die and say, hey, you know what, I gave it my best. You know, I like, but I'm not gonna be preaching black economics. You know, I'm not gonna preach, generational wealth. I'm not gonna preach all that stuff no more because I gave up. And now I can't see I can't see that happening at any point in time. I would probably, that would probably be the end of my story, if you will. But I say all that to say, you know, there has to be an inner push about all of this. There has to be something else that's kicking you to do all these, to even communicate, to move the way you move. There has to be something else that's pushing you in a direction that keeps the fire going. It has to be, and yeah, when I think about what's next, and it really comes down to really trying to find your voice. And I was listening to a speech the other day, and I was so excited because I heard about the speech. I'm not going to go into detail as to this particular speech, but I was excited about the speech, fired up about the speech, and then I heard the speech. And when I heard the speech, it was like glimmers of good stuff just all scattered throughout the message. And I was like, oh, that was good. I was like, oh, okay, all right, got it. Oh, got it. Okay, all right. That's what you was talking about. Okay, cool. Oh, got it over there. Got it. Okay, and it was just all over the place. And it was and the thing that just stood out to me was, you know, it was clearly a fire there, but the voice, the intentionality, the direction of the speaker's voice was not there. And so at the end of the speech, what was the call to action? What did the people walk away with as this is what we're about to go do? This is it. And it really made me think about, especially, and again, this is a conversation for purpose driven, full of intention folks. It's a conversation for folks like that. Um, you know, have you found your voice? Is this conversation? Um, and the reason why I wanted to kind of share that is because when you're on purpose, I was talking to another brother yesterday, and he was like, "Oh man, listen, you got to meet this person, but let me tell you, before you talk to her, you know." He's like, what was his word? He said, he's like, she is she's like a professional ADHD or something like that. It's like you're gonna be on. She's gonna be fired off of a lot of great things, and before you can find yourself excited about one, you know, she's gonna be on to something else that's just as exciting, but you still got questions about the other one. Like it's gonna be a, it's a deluge of good stuff, and then at the end of the conversation, your head's gonna explode. And there's a lot of us out there like that, right? But we have to get to a point, and I'm really, I say I want to rock the next 40 years of my life, just really focused on the progress of Black people. Listen, that's just it, man. And because I think that as Black people progress, it's going to benefit everybody. You know what I'm saying? So there's no need for me to be like, oh, that's racist, whatever, man. Listen, as Black people progress, it will benefit everyone who's associated with Black folks. But as long as we are separated and completely dispersed in the things that we're doing, yeah, we're going to see what we got, right? And so being in a position where we can begin the process of organizing, you know, being intentional about how we communicate our passions is something that's not only necessary, but it's needed. It's truly needed for us to be able to, one, have that fire about what it is that matters to us. And I know we can ramble off 1,000 things that truly matter to us, and this is why, and this is why that, and this is why that. But you know, as Jim Rohn talks about, don't give me a steak in the face. Give it to me in beautiful, forkful, edible bites. And because if that first one tastes good, I'm going to want another piece. I'm going to want another piece. So how do you have power and fire for the things that matter to you? But when you communicate it, or when you're giving it that first piece, like it's something, it's like, and I can say, I get it. It's like, taste this and tell me what you think. And then first bite's, oh, that's good. You know that the rest that you're getting ready to give them is going to be even better, right? That's a whole piece of the steak that is so much better than the piece I just gave you. But I can't give it to you right now. I just got to cut the next piece and give it, right? And so it's, how do we get into a rhythm of pursuing the things that matter to us, being intentional and on message, even having organized steps that we're going through to every day say, I moved one step in the right direction. This is what happened today that moved the objective that I'm working on forward. It's like any tangible things that you can say, ooh, maybe it's just a conversation. Met with that sister, and this is what we got lined up. I was able to get that done and get that funded. And so now that's moving in the right direction. Just to be able to have some level of organization in your priorities, and those priorities lining up with your bigger, longer plan, objective, passions. But and not only are you can feel it and see it in your mind, but when you communicate it to somebody else, they get it. They are able, especially if what you're doing, if what you're doing is just a tactical piece of a bigger objective, then that's cool. That's important for people to know. That what the role you play in a bigger scheme, in a bigger objective. And I try to have this conversation under the context of the progress of Black people. And so, well, why is that even a focus? Why are you? I listen. I get more pushback on the topic of Black economics from Black folks than I do white people. One, I could say maybe white folks are like, I don't feel like having this race. I don't want to be called a racist. So I'm not going to go down that road with these today. So maybe that's the deal. But in having conversations with Black folks, who grew up in neighborhoods like mine, like where I grew up, or worse, if you will. What for, man? I like nice things. I'm gonna go buy it from the people who can produce it. You know, I don't have time to be searching out for Black retailers. What's the purpose anyway? Like, they're not gonna buy my stuff. Like, it's just. And I was on this program a couple weeks ago, and these brothers were going in on this topic, and I said, at the end of the day, we are still reeling, from desegregation. Still hadn't figured that piece out. Black folks was like, all right, well, we out of here. Left the communities and went to the suburbs, and whoever couldn't afford to leave and are still there. And the government didn't choose to invest in those areas because it wasn't producing enough economics to add value to the tax base. So they just left those communities for dead, if you will. And so these are things that have, we got what we got 50, 60 years later. So it's kind of left up to our generation to decide how do we bring this back together? In a way that, there's a lot of classism has happened up to this point. So how do we bring this back together within our own community? And Black folks don't really like to talk about, classism because but it's a real thing. So I think that, as we are really going down this road of going into this new year and preparing and planning for what the new year will be and what it will bring and how you plan to execute that plan. Now, I really want us to take some time, if you can, over the next month, throughout the rest of December, to really think about, number one, what your plan is and why. But two, if even when you're speaking it to yourself, what is your voice? How are you? What are you sharing? And what's the purpose behind it? And is there is it just the goal of, I just want to do better than my daddy did? And if that's it, okay, great. So what's the steps to do that? What are you, why is that a big deal? Number one. And number two, what's your steps to be better than your daddy? Some folks say I'm way better because he wasn't around or whatever the case may be. But if whatever those steps are, make them clear to you. And is there a point? Yeah, it's also important to say to yourself, at what point can you say mission accomplished? Boom, did that. At what point did you say that? And if that happens, then what? Does it end there and you just sit back and relax, or is there still another objective to push? So I wanted to really share that, as we look back on 2023 and just kind of the road that we've been on this year, up to this point. But at the same time, as we're preparing to go into 2024 and being, I just feel like we should always at least know what the next step looks like. What does your level of work look like? What does your passion and objective work look like next year? Is it just the goal of being constant and not falling off? Because that's a good thing too. There's a lot of power in consistency. But I just don't want us to go into a new year with where you basically said, you know what, I've lost the fight. And even if that's the case, at least share what you got with somebody else so they can pick up the baton and keep rocking. And so let me pull back. Let's take a second. We'll open up the call now. Anybody want to share your 2023, as you look back, highlight what you're thankful for, what you're the blessings of this year. But at the same time, I do think it's important to be reflective and highlight those things, that the road that you've been on this year, and you're thankful for getting able to talk about it. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we do get a chance to communicate the road, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I look at it as, if we're able to speak about the good, the bad, and the ugly, you have already made progress, right? So we'll take a second and we'll open up the call now to anyone who'd like to share about their year. We'll open up the call now. All right. Well, I wanted to share with you guys, this is a couple things that happened this week, and now we're kind of moving into the the blessing, I would say, wasn't sure if I was going to going to share anything about this at all, but I think it's a perfect time. Um, going back to making a decision, the plan, and executing the plan. This week was a milestone week for me. Uh, a big goal that was part of my goal, part of my plan. Not even at the beginning of this year, but even I would say maybe 2 years ago, 2021. And so this year, I was actually this week. Well, let me go back. I had two clients who were, both African American. Um, under the when we launched our exit planning business, and on the exit planning side, where we, in one hand, working with businesses who are preparing to sell their companies and to put them in a position to sell their businesses at the highest multiple. So if you're at a situation where, uh, hey, I need to sell my business tomorrow because XYZ happened and I got to get out right now. So in that situation, depending on what your company looks like on the surface, if you're already running a great organization, then you could be okay. And so let's just get in and figure out how, where all the dead bodies in the company, like what's really going on in this business. Is everything clean? It's a good way of looking at it as selling a house. You say, I need to sell this house because I'm getting ready to move and I got to get this house done, right? And I said, great, let me go by your house and take a look at the house. You walk in the house, like, oh, this is beautiful. This is great. Tell me about what's been going on. Is the house clean? Any major damages? Have you fixed something? Did you remodel this? What's going on? And they tell you, oh yeah, this year I remodeled this. I got that fixed up. The guy around the corner sold his house and for a higher multiple, or all these different things. I said, great, perfect. This is good. Let's put it on the market because it's ready to be sold. But as we know, it's not always the case. Some folks, you walk into their house and we got work to do. We got work to do before we can sell this house. I see some water damage there. Where's that hole in the wall come from? What's happening over here? Oh man, the guy around the corner just sold his house for 30% under market rates. Like, we got work to do. So the same is the case in selling businesses. Work needs to be done before you sell a business, or you could very well sell that business at a discount. And then no one wants to do that, because in most cases, people are selling the business to retire, and to say, I'm done working. It's a wrap. I'm going to live the rest of my life on the proceeds from the sale. And so, especially for folks who've been entrepreneurs all their life, they've never worked W-2s. They've always been entrepreneurs. Or if they did work a W-2 at some point in their life, they never saved up any money for retirement. So the sale of this business is their retirement, right? And so, so we have clients like that who are in that situation. On the other hand, we have clients who are growing their businesses. And so they are at a point where they're trying to figure out how to go from a startup to, $1 million annual revenue, or they go from $1 million annual revenue to $10 million annual revenue. How do we grow this business, and how do we do it in a way that doesn't make the owner of the business basically, involved in everything? So making sure that as you grow your business, you're able to use a good portion or percentages of the growing revenues to reinvest in the business, hire really good people, staff it properly, make sure that, I always say, if you can go on vacation, I used to say 2 weeks, but now I'm shrinking it down. You go on vacation for 1 week and not have to receive a phone call, or you can just shut your phone off and don't look at it, you're headed in the right direction. Your business is headed in the right direction. You're not a slave to your own business. And so So these are the two worlds of clients that you're managing. The ones who are growing and the ones who are ready to sell, or I should say, who want to sell. This week on what's that? Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, I had a great situation where one of my clients who was growing a business was actually able to purchase the business from the one who was selling, and it was just and again, going back to this whole conversation around Black economics and generational wealth. It was one of those examples that I'll probably use in my testimony for the rest of my life, because there was we used a black owned title company that was involved. There was a Black accountant involved. I'm Black as the lead advisor. The two companies on both sides were Black folks. Their employees, all employees. Well, maybe I would say 90% of the employees of both companies, African American. In Baltimore. And so the benefits of growth, the benefits of the acquisition, still, if you will, using Bill Clinton's term, trickle down. Yeah, it did trickle down. It does trickle down. We talk about trickle down economics. This is what trickle down economics looks like. This is what the ecosystem looks like if you're doing business with each other. And what it did for me was to fuel what's possible. Because this is a small deal in relative to what we hear about like larger companies, but it fuels what's possible. There's so many businesses that aren't strategic enough to even think that they should be partnering or have some type of strategic alliance with another Black-owned business to grow together and then exit together. Hire the right people and give them the opportunity to lead it and take it to the next level. Maybe keep a percentage in there throughout, for generational wealth, so it can pass down to the kids and all that good stuff. But being much more organized and strategic. Yes, that was Wednesday. So to be able to get that done, the day before Thanksgiving, I was like, this is something definitely to be thankful for. And it just fueled the fire. I mean, I can't begin to tell you how fired up I was after getting that picture at the title company and said, boom, we did this, it's done. Because all I could think about was current clients and people who I would love to become clients, how they can begin to make strategic moves and realize their financial and business goals just through strategy and deals, to be able to, and if we even unpack that even further, why did they get in business in the first place, right? Because somebody knew how to do something. Somebody understood how to do something, and you think about yourself. What do you already know and understand? What is it? You think about the things that you already know and understand. They can't take that away from you. Only thing that can be, unless you just, one day wake up, you have amnesia and or you get early Alzheimer's or something, and just wipes out your brain and your thought capacity. As long as your mind can work, you already know something and you understand it. So that's number one. But number two, are you willing to take what you know and understand, package it in a business form, and take it to the market? And just say, here, hang your shingle. This is what I know and understand. I could be of service to you. Boom. Are you willing to do that? And then for the folks who say, I am willing to do it, go hard on your work. The thing that you do, the thing that you love, the thing that you are passionate about, just put it all into it. We talked about how do we, our voice, if we can communicate that thing that we know and understand and love and the reasons and the whole nine, if we could communicate that in a way that could affect someone else and say, you know what, you're right. Just to hear that word, you know what, you're right. That piece is the beginning of something great. And the one great thing about, if you and we I know we've talked about in past conversations the Robert Kiyosaki's book, The Cash Flow Quadrant. If you know the quadrant, the E quadrant, employee, the S quadrant, the self-employed, the B quadrant, the business owner, and the I quadrant, the investor. If you know that quadrant and the flow of the cash flow, then you recognize that just because you sell a business doesn't mean it's over. It just means you have more money now to do other stuff. You still know and understand your business. So now you can take a portion of that money and invest in other businesses that are doing the things that you know and understand. And you become an investor and help to provide access to capital in those markets. And so the evolution of this is so beautiful. And it was just one of those situations. I've done these things for other companies and been a part of deals, but for me personally, it was one of those situations where it was like, one, I initiated a deal. This was part of my goals in business, but two, to be able to just even prove to myself and others, but definitely to myself, that you don't necessarily have to go outside of the black market to show your expertise, to do the things that truly matter. It's like, well, here's what I love to do, but where can I do this within the black community? It can be done right here. And the need is definitely there. We just have to make sure that the economics make sense. And sometimes, and I can tell you, and my wife can definitely tell you, sometimes I get myself involved in deals that the economics don't make sense, right? But for me, it's a part of the um, it's really a part of the research and development, if you will, that testing ground, just to make sure, okay, let me tweak this, let me tweak that, because when the higher grossing opportunities come, there won't be any issue because we fixed that on that deal. We went through that experience on that deal, so we can take this. We're just tweaking the package. We're tweaking the offering, if you will. So again, it goes back to the plan. Are you working the plan and executing the plan? And can you see it? And that was just one of those moments this week where it was part of the plan. It was one of the early stages, part of the plan. But to see it come together, um, it wasn't like one of my highest grossing moments in business, right? But it was. I'm pretty sure it probably was the most fulfilling. And that's a big thing to say. It was probably one of the most fulfilling deals that I've ever been a part of. And I could easily say that I'll share this story for years to come, because of the nature of it. Now, I'd love to be able to say that I'm going to have a host of other deals after this that look and feel exactly like that. But to be able to unpack this particular story, it makes it believable to somebody else who's thinking about doing it. And that's the reason why I felt so empowered by it after the deal, just to be able to say, this is what we're working for. This is a taste, this is a realization of taking an idea from the mind, making a decision off of that idea, designing a plan to execute the decision, and just be about executing the decision and just keep daily going after it. It was the most proof in the pudding that I could ever have highlighted in my career. And so, and I going back to what I was saying earlier, and I started my career in this business 20 years ago, and when I graduated in 2004, and we're getting into 2024, so almost 20 years ago. And now we're here. So I look at it as kind of symbolically the beginning of the next phase, the end of one phase of that professional 20-year professional period. If for me, it was symbolic as this is the end of my 20-year professional period of going through things that you know and understand, getting to the end of that period and launching and starting a brand new period of ownership and executing that side of the professional plan. So thought I'd share that in terms of what being thankful, things of being thankful for, and just the symbolic aspect of um, what this meant, what it means, and what it meant to me, and how we go forward. So with that, open up the call. Anybody have any questions, comments? Love to share on their side about what's going on, the good, bad, and the ugly. We'll take a second and open up the call now. Hey, Brother Morris, happy Thanksgiving, brother. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
These questions the past few months, they've been real aggressive with the questioning, man. Real aggressive. Hey, tell us about your year. Good, bad, and ugly. That's your man. To quote you and Jim Rome, that's like a steak in the face. That's like a steak in the face. I was here contemplating, like, well, let me give a couple steps. Hold on, the car might pick up.
Okay.
Can you still hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah. As you were talking about the acquisition, I'm still in the back of my mind, going through the year. First of all, congratulations on putting that thing together. I know this is the journey, and I can recall the beginnings of that. The first inkling that I'm going in this direction. Then the courses and the study and the certifications and all the stuff that come along with being, licensed and ready to do that kind of work. And then you already kind of live in this land because of your profession. But I always look at that as it's very important work, but it's a different kind of important work because it's almost like kind of being a doctor. Meaning that, when you make a decision about, when you personally, I'm talking about you as in your role as, financial stuff. When you make a decision about somebody's life or somebody's finances, it has a ripple effect. Just like a doctor says, my recommendation is, you should take this, take that.
Yeah.
And with the proper training, they could definitely give you something knowing, and it could be detrimental. And that's the doctors all the time.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. You can kill people.
Yeah.
If you're a doctor. Now in your position, you could kill somebody, financially,
yeah.
hurt them badly. With some bad advice. I know you see that in your life. So,
yeah.
I know people in your group, people don't always look at it like that. They kind of say, this guy kind of can just tell me what to do, but bad advice can hurt. But so know that you take that and I look at that like sure. When you sit down and tell somebody, this is what I think you should do for your family, especially more you, you know what I'm saying? And you think about everything from from P. Washington time to, you know what I'm saying, till 2050. So you're really thinking long term approaches people and the ripple. So all that being said, definitely congratulations to not only going to you know, liquidate their business and then someone else to acquire it, but also it being the life. When you said it, you just think everything was
everybody.
Yeah. Everybody. I was like, oh, it probably could have been this a year and a half ago with a white boy and a Chinese guy quickly like, yeah, man, like, yeah. And define, cultivate, push, control.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying? And make sure that these two people or these two entities, you know, blended properly. And it was a smooth transition, and it followed and adhered to all of these those two. Not only the person that's selling, you know, to benefit, and the person that is acquiring to benefit, and all of them, you know, to fit and be black, you know, and fit into your universal goal, or your larger goal of black economics. I mean, this is pretty impressive, and I double congratulations. You know, but yeah, that was something. So good stuff, sir. Way to, you know what I'm saying? Way to Black Wall Street stuff on Wednesday. Way to Black Wall Street stuff. Yeah, you got a little AG in you. Okay.
Brother Gaskin.
Yeah, you're doing it from up here, but you know, you got to move to Georgia. And okay. This year, the whole year, good, bad, ugly, learn your voice for and exercising your voice. I'm trying to put it all together from, like I said, right, this big question, but what comes to the thought that comes in about the past year and what has been, you know, learned, what's been good, what's been bad, what's been ugly. I don't really like that because bad and ugly might go together. What's good? Yeah.
You know, let me tell you something real quick, actually. So let me tell you this real quick. So when I say this to Madison, right, and she's like, oh, you know, I got a 100 on this test or whatever. You know, that's the good. Then, you know, the bad is, you know, my teacher said she's gonna call you because I was talking in class when you know, so I was talking in class and I wasn't supposed to be talking in class. The ugly ended up being like, oh, you know, I saw a fight today and it was so bad, and you know, so that's kind of her world, but mainly it's but you know, the truth is, the main piece is what I'm really trying to do is to get her, number one, to tell me how your day was, but really to tell me the truth, right? To get to the truth. And that's the same question I would say to all of us. You know, let's get to the truth of what has happened this year. You know, yes, we're thankful that we have made it this year and that we're here and we still alive and breathing to talk about it and see all that. But if we can take a second and be truthful about this year, you know, the good, the bad, right? Then it helps us to at least, if there's something, you know, the power in verbalizing what happened. And, you know, as in a summary form, if you will, but it helps to move forward as we go into the new year. So that's really the main piece, is to, you know, be truthful about the year.
Oh, right. A reframe. They call that a reframe.
Reframe the question.
Let's get to the truth. Let's get down to the nitty gritty about this year.
Yeah.
So, off the cuff, I think this year has been the main pillars of this year. If I break it down, family, finances, soul, or spirit, and then body. Each one of them this year, if I had to rank them, and then based on the rankings, I'm bringing it down myself. So then, based on the rankings, I would give the story or the thought behind it, right? So, finances has been mediocre this year, meaning that everything is. I haven't made great strides, but everything's been paid, and the process and another brick has been laid in the business side, and so now we understand that I'm in the throes of building. So there hasn't been a huge jump in the bank account because there's been work and effort and investment, and I've been putting in sweat equity on these business ventures. So the story behind that is and partnership in that and how that's been going, and that has been going well from a standpoint of growth, meaning that it started at zero. Starting at zero, it wasn't like it was an acquisition. Like we already had numbers on the thing. This was although the facility was there and it was kind of running, this was a total slate right clean. We're starting from fresh. So wasn't many new clients that came over. A few people came. A few events that hey, but it wasn't like no revenue that could counted upon. Old management left. We're starting from in my mind and in my bank account. Zero.
Yeah.
That's been going well from that standpoint because we made it to where things that where bills are being paid. The facility is we hired some good people. Good staff members. We set processes in place to can handle almost anything that would become event-wise that we could find. We can gain profit. There's been some strides as far as producing events that we like. Things that are like, hey, this is the stuff that we want to do. We like this kind of stuff. We enjoy this form of live music, this kind of this kind of event. So let's do that. We added the creativity. The creativity piece has kicked in, and now I understand that because I work with everybody's got a little bit of creativity in them, right? But I would say that I operate with people or other partners probably he's definitely more of a creator than a full operator, right? But he still operates well. But what I'm saying is working with a creator and me being an operator and kind of just more of an operator than a creator. So we complement each other well in that standpoint. But now getting the operations piece kind of in control now allows the creativity to kind of flow, because the creators without the operation is chaos, is a mess. Like, I want to do this, but this doesn't work. I want to have this person come and perform, but the kitchen and entry and all that doesn't work. So people who would enjoy this particular performance won't enjoy it because the operation's not working right. Everything's not working right. So this kind of and every business is like this. But this particular business, everything that you don't see has to be kind of seamless, so that when you walk in and you come to enjoy whatever it is, you're not looking around. You're not wondering where my food is. You're not twirling around your drink like, in there.
Yeah.
Get all the things that are expected, and then the performance or whatever can happen, and then that is the power that the vibration that gets you into your spirit. And you're like, oh, I had a good time. I'm coming back. You know, that's what we're trying to create. But you can't get that until operations are together. It's the lighting right. It's the forecast. What's going on with the snow? And all of that mixture has to be awesome. So we're working on that. And we got to the point where the operations are down, and and the first person that walked in, as long as people come in, you got it down to where the person represents money. It's the law for the person represents, and we can get it there. So that's a good thing. So I would say that that's been a good as far as the finance side goes. Although you're money guy, money doesn't mean anything until it's in your pocket.
Yeah.
It sounds nicely to start coming into the pocket. So I'm giving that piece. We'll see what happens in that one. And I'm willing to work hard in order to make sure that that's 24. So let me get that. Spiritually, I've been, on a track. I think I've been working. It's been labor of love and using spirit to allow me, to empower me to do the work that has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And lean on, God from that standpoint. I'm leaning on God for accepting, that God energy for accepting for anything. And connecting with it, do that. And not just been and being, in and interacting with people and I'm aware that that's what's happening. So people say, "Man, you seriously, this doesn't phase you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you not, this, that, and this is happening? I can't believe that you haven't, all people would have, they think it's all, you think you joke.
Yeah.
So really, if you know what I'm saying, for a universe, God, or in the effort that I'm doing. So I don't feel bad about where you are, and you might be the person that might be in this environment with me. Might be like, yeah, this thing is, sitting with God, but I'm operating, I'm accepting the power that God has given to me and say, hey, look, you're okay. Let's just work through the chair if you're going to honor me, because I woke you up this morning, so happy, goddamn it, that I put you in this map. I said, can you say that God damn it to you? I mean, you can't. They got this map. But just be happy, sir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put you here, and this is for a reason, and trust me, and just get through it, but do it with cheer, because you believe that, you are moving through this. And that's kind of the way that I've been accessing spirit, in my life. I feel good about that. I don't feel, it's been where, you feel drained, or like you're not doing the work that it takes for your spirit. And although I'm not actively practicing as hard as I normally do, like there's been times I meditate in the morning, here, gratitude, all that. What I've been doing is looking at just a little bit of it, a little bit in the morning, and then maybe discussing it, before something. Like, I'm getting ready to go to this next thing. Let's get it going. Quick prayer or something. It hasn't been as rigorous, but I still don't feel the touch.
Mm-hmm.
With the wedding thing. Like, I didn't feel as I was moving through that experience. So it was easy to access the necessary power. And we know where that comes from. So easy, but I knew exactly where to go, and when I went in that direction, the path was clear. How about that? It was a clear path.
Yeah.
I don't make it seem like it's super easy to get there. You know what I'm saying? I'm not just sure walking around. I feel good on that mother. I don't know what happened. In the book. Decent things. Well, I know what happened, but I didn't make an adjustment.
Got it.
That is piece, that working out every day, that rigor that I love so much.
Yeah.
This year, 6 months. I took a year. I took a month off. I'm like, no, I'm gonna take a month off. And that month just went on ahead and just kept moving. Like, yeah, that was a good idea. And now I'm back on January. I'm back into the power with all the rest of the suckers. Oh yeah, the first of the year. I'm about to do it. You know, I'm in that guy. I'm that guy.
Got it.
I'm gonna do it. Being in that. Oh, that's when y'all started in June, Chuck. So that was not the case. I will be starting January 1st.
January 1st, back up. You know, it's interesting. You know what's interesting, because I was talking to Dwayne the other day. So Dwayne, he's not on the call right now, but boy, Dwayne called me because he yeah. He called me the other day because I posted when I left the gym, and he called me early. Like it was still early. He was like, "Man, I'm so glad you posted that, man, because where the rest of these jokers at, man? Get these guys going. Where's Paz? He's usually out early in the morning." Yeah. That's right.
You either have worked or you have not. And I have not. There's a lot of gray area, a lot of things. But there is no gray area.
Yeah.
You have done it or you have not. And I have but here's the beauty of the year of development. That month that I'm talking about was September. So it hasn't really been that long that I haven't been.
Okay. All right.
Just June, July. You know what I'm saying? So I don't feel bad about it now. If I look at it holistically, it's still in the mix for about 7 months last year. I mean, it's just, this is January, so but it's still 23. So 23 was in it for 7 months.
Okay. More than half of the year. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
Brain shut there. Man, look. So jump back and then spirit and then but there you go. So what the other one? And family?
Yeah, family, yeah. I'm proud of the way baby is growing, and I'm happy with what we're doing to make sure that they go in the right direction. Be that a team on that standpoint. The pressure has come in the areas that I know it's going to come in, which is you have to give a little bit to go in another direction. So if I put more, there's been
less effort on that side, on the family side. And my wife has been holding it down on that perspective and not giving me as much footage as as could have been. Not saying it's been 100%, but there's been some concessions that I'm thankful for, and I know that it's going to work out. So I'm trying to make sure that I can push along this thing as fast as possible, so that we can put some more lean effort back into that side, and that's something that I'm working for because I enjoy that part. That part, but she's giving some concessions, and and I'm honoring that and not abusing that at all. There's no abuse in the concessions, so I'm not utilizing work concessions to also chill.
Yeah, we at work.
To get a drink before
no. Like, yeah, decent town, right? So decent town. So let's. Yeah.
Very diligent in doing that. Been the year. Is it aligned with all with finding my voice and my purpose? Yes, because I've been utilizing skills acquired over the years and expertise in a business setting, in an environment I'm enjoying.
That's good. That's a good point.
I'm going to make some reassessments always, and that's what we are right now. So that's why we're there. So the finding the piece is the part of the statement that I get. He says, finding your voice. I'm like, yeah. I'm finding. I'm in the find piece to make sure that at least I'm accepting. At least make sure I'm kind of looking in the right direction. I'm putting it in the right direction. Maybe not laser like this is exactly A to B. I at least need to see B. I'm walking kind of to the left, but let me adjust towards B. Let me adjust. So I'm always looking to make sure I still got that point and trying to adjust, even if I get off track, which happens all the time. So that's what we are. That's me. I think that's the year. So it's good. I feel good about it. And we still got a little runway left.
Yeah, you said something. I'm glad you said it this way because it's actually something I really want to spend more time on in terms of finding your voice. I think that when you connect finding your voice with organizing the things that you know and understand and giving it, I don't want to use the word give, but applying it to other things, on purpose and intentionally. That's really what where I'm trying to go with this finding your voice. We got this actually event coming up, and I talked to you about it past, but definitely want to talk to all the brothers or sisters who listening who are married or dating or got dads or whatever the case. The Associated Black Charities is hosting a men's night out at the Reginald Lewis Museum on December 14th in Baltimore. And they asked me to speak on the topic of wealth management, personal development. And it's going to be a great panel of speakers, and it's going to be great. So definitely come on out, support. Again, this is going back to that Black the Utopian mindset. It's going to be one of those. I'm really looking forward to it because just to be able to communicate with the sea of brothers is important, especially during this time. But finding your voice lines up with that, especially in terms when we're thinking about just sliding this into more of a wealth management conversation. I know more W-2 folks that I know business owners. And I would love for it to become a day when most of the people I know are business owners and not W-2. And from the context of wealth creation, it's an important topic, because wealth is in ownership. Wealth is in creating cash flow from ownership. Wealth is in deals. You can get there faster through those models than you can by being a high net worth W-2 employee. You could be the head of this and the head of that, and you can make, $300,000-$400,000 a year as the head of this, the head of that. But the tax code drains that number under a W-2 model. Whereas if you a business owner, you can get that money back through deductions, and a host of deductions, right? And so I say all that to say a big charge for me is to begin to communicate this finding your voice in terms to folks who are high net worth W-2s or just W-2s, period, so they can package what they know and understand under their own entity for the purposes of wealth creation and purpose fulfillment, if you will. Because when you know something and you're good at it, may as well, be in a position where you can monetize it and grow from that. And so, as you were kind of sharing past that, your experience in logistics and operations and applying that to the soundstage and what we're building over there, and seeing the activities and having people hit me up and be like, man, I love it. That's my new spot. And so, by the way, folks, come to the La Familia soundstage. We got a Black-owned soundstage, Baltimore, Guilford. If you're going to watch the Ravens game, come watch it at the soundstage. Being in that position to see the value and applying it to that. And so that it's creation. I was listening to my man Andre 3000 the other day selling his his new album of the flute album, right? And and they were like, man, we were hoping you was going to give us some bars on that thing, whatever. And he was just like, I love being a baby at something. I'm a creative, and I love being a baby at something, like to start. So if it's the flute, it's the flute. And I'm in a position where I can apply the stuff that I've learned in the music industry and being a creative at the same time, and put an album out and be the #1 streamed album, one of the top for the year, and all with a flute. Like, at the end of the day, it's being able to apply what you know and understand to a creative space. And that keeps people going throughout their life. And that's the value of leveraging what you know and understand, leveraging your voice, and applying it to these things that you are curious about, you're excited about, you see a potential opportunity there, because you got the backing of your voice, you got the backing of your experience. So I like the fact you just kind of connected the dot for me, Faz, on that, is that, you're connecting your voice to what you already know and understand. And now, when the finding aspect, because you have a voice right now, and that is what you know and understand. Finding, though, is what you will apply it to. So if it's a new business, if it's your relationship, if it's the community, or whatever the case may be, and applying it to new things. So I really want to. I'm probably, as we go into 2024, I'm gonna try to spend more time there, and apply that voice, that message, if you will, to as much as possible, because I think, again, as we talked about kind of the bigger scheme of what we're doing here, and the progress, the plight, of Black folks, is that, again, I have to dig back again to good old Booker T, who outlined the fact that at the end of the day, you gotta pull from all these ancestral. Go back. You do, you know what I'm saying? You gotta pull though.
You're doing the right thing. Go ahead.
You gotta pull, man. but I highly recommend folks that, I know a lot of you guys may have read Up From Slavery, but get character building, because what he really was saying to these kids was that, and I don't know, they were probably grown adults, but at that time of day, but what he was really saying to them is that, and he was like, he's like, when you leave this school, do not go north. He really was saying, do not go to Chicago, don't go to DC, don't go to New York. Take what you've learned and help me rebuild the South. He's like, there's so much land here. You can build, you can do this. He was selling it. Rebuild the South. And I was listening to this thing. I was just like, wow. I was like, I think maybe, I don't know. I don't think maybe when I was in college or something, I may have, skimmed through that book. The fact that I'm back in the South, I'm like, okay, this is symbolic, I guess, because I'm like, get back here and rebuild, And so it's just one of those things where, at the end of the day, when you're in the process of finding your voice, meaning taking what you know and understand and applying it to something, if the bigger objective is, I'm doing this because I'm looking to rebuild something, I'm looking to build what's not there, I'm looking to create a new this, I'm looking to add value to a gap that's not there, like put another piece of why behind it. If you can add some more why to the reasons, then now we're on to something. You know what I'm saying? But if it's still, if as long as it's singular, we can live in excuses in that singular world. I didn't do it because, I didn't do it because of that, and but once you push a big why behind it, now the reasons are just too big. It's just too big for you not to, go double down on your voice and applying the voice to, the areas that matter to you. It may not be something, if I tell you to say, hey, I think you should do this, that, and I'll do it over there. But, Dees is my guy, I'm gonna do it. But you're doing it just because Dees is your guy, it's like, no, that's not a big enough why. It has to be part of your bigger scheme, a bigger objective. It could be the case that, hey, I think that I can build something and it could be very profitable. Or I think that, if I do this, my kids could potentially get involved in this, or whatever angle you need. But you got to find the angle that's going to push you further into this thing, because we want to get into a space where we're just not, but we're reducing the barriers of not doing it. The things that will get in the way. We want to reduce that so we have a free lane to be creative and go. And it's like you see enough people living that life to say, why not me? Why not me? It's like they winning. You know what I'm saying? And it's no different. We could come up with, oh, well, because they had this, or because they had that. Like, no, you got it. You got what you need to go. We can tweak this and get a little bit better at that and trim that down and whatever, but we got everything we need to go and at least get started, and then continue to build your why and get to going, but so yeah, but this piece about finding your voice, we're going to spend more time on this as we get into the new year. But I wanted to just kind of introduce that concept and it's always good to have you guys to help sharpen that sword, because that's exactly what you just did in talking through. But we're past 9 o'clock, and we got a busy day today with the kids. But we want to open up the call. Anybody have any questions, comments, last words? We'll take a second to open up the call now. All right, we did it. So, well, happy Thanksgiving to you guys. So hope you enjoyed all the good food and family and friends. It was definitely a blessed Thanksgiving. I was just sharing with Maria this year, and we're with her family, and it was just good to be with everybody, and the food was great as usual. Um, if my Seminole High School boys would have won last night, it would have been perfect, but I know my Seminoles, Florida State is going to make up for it, even though we lost our quarterback. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. So we're going into December. Again, if you're interested in coming to or inviting folks out and coming to the Men's Night Out with Associated Black Charities at the Reginald Lewis Museum on December 14th, come out. It's going to be a great night. It's going to be the beginning of a series of Men's Night Out events, which going into the new year, which I'm really excited about, for a host of reasons, which is we'll save for another conversation another time. But I'm very excited about that. And please listen, if you're in Baltimore and you love the Ravens and you want to get outside the house, come to La Familia on game day for the watch parties. Paz, you can do a better job of selling it than me, but you got to get the folks there. It's a blessing. It's great. Everybody who goes tells me why hasn't this been around for longer. Well, it's here now. So let's go. So what about this Saturday, Sunday night? What about this Sunday night?
We'll be there Sunday night, definitely. Great food, fantastic wings. The grill will be happening. We don't do a tailgate because we're not standing around ourselves. You get tailgate food, biggest thing in the city, DJ. So it's not just, watching the game at home, they selling stuff while they're talking and the commercials are on. We got the music going.
Purple Honey there.
Yeah. We'll be there. We'll be there having a great time. It's a great time. So if you're on Instagram, familiar, LA, and then familiar downstage Instagram. You'll see the videos. I mean, it's crazy. People dancing on stage. There's a lot of stuff happening. So it's truly a wild party, and you should come out. You also get the opportunity to meet me and spend time with me. Me, I'm there. Be shaking hands. Taking money. Listen, yeah. So you want to finally see Paz?
Come on.
That's where you come.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Will you do another game now? Did you do the Cowboys? Can you do it's really a party around the Ravens game. So if you're a Ravens fan or your team is playing the Ravens, it's a great opportunity to see it. It's a good number, and it's totally free. And you got to drink some booze and stuff, but there's no it's great.
I love it. That's a great finding your voice, applying it to new things, and this is definitely. I mean, you get the Purple Honey experience at a tailgate party, watching your favorite team. So it's definitely exciting. So one more thing to be excited about. All right, have a great rest of the month, and we look forward to celebrating the holidays with everybody. And we'll see you before the new year. See you soon.